Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be taking a look at P.G. Woodhouse in vintage paperback, predominantly Penguin editions. So I've been a huge fan of P.G. Woodhouse for many years. I absolutely love him, and I've pretty much got all the Penguin editions and a smattering of other publishers, which is what I'm going to show you today. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Sir Pelham Grenville Woodhouse, or P.G. Woodhouse, was born 15th of October 1881, and he died on the 14th of February 1975. He was, quite arguably, one of the most widely read humorists of the 20th century. Born in Guildford, the third son of a British magistrate based in Hong Kong, Woodhouse spent happy teenage years at Dulwich College, at which he remained devoted all his life. After leaving school, he was employed by a bank, but disliked the work and turned to writing in his spare time. His early novels were mostly school stories, but he later switched to comic fiction, creating several regular characters who became familiar to the public over the years. They include the feather-brained Bertie Wooster and his valet Jeeves, the immaculate and loquacious Smith, Lord Elmsworth and Blandings Castle, the oldest member with stories about golf, and Mr. Mulliner. Most of Woodhouse's fiction is set in his native United Kingdom, although he spent much of his life in the US and used New York and Hollywood as settings for some of his novels and short stories. He began the 1930s, writing for MGM in Hollywood. In the same decade, his literary career reached a new peak. Woodhouse was a prolific writer throughout his life and publishing more than 90 books, 40 plays, 200 short stories, and other writings between 1902 and 1974. He worked extensively on the books, sometimes having two or more in preparation simultaneously. He would take up to 2 years to build a plot and write a scenario of about 30,000 words. After the scenario was complete, he would write the story. Early in his career, Woodhouse would produce a novel in about 3 months, but he slowed in old age to around 6 months. He used a mixture of Edwardian slang, quotations from and allusions to numerous poets, and several literary techniques to produce a prose style that has been compared to comic poetry and musical comedy. Some critics of Woodhouse have considered his work flippant, but among his fans are former British Prime Ministers and many of his fellow writers. So we'll start off with the Torchnitz editions. Now, although I haven't got any Woodhouses that were published by Torchnitz, they did publish about 30 in total. This one does actually mention a Woodhouse on the back here, 5035, Big Money by Woodhouse. But yeah, these were sort of published on the continent in the 1930s. And this, I believe, is the first time that Woodhouse was put into paperback form beyond sort of magazines and digests and that sort of thing. In 1935, however, he did get his first Penguin book. Now, Penguin had only been going for 3 months when this would come out, so there was only 30 books in the entire Penguin list. And Woodhouse, and a great one at that, My Man Jeeves, gets given the number 27. This is in itself quite an expensive Penguin to find, and although I've had this one for years, it's not my greatest copy. It says 1936, it would have been very early in 36. Original copies of this came with a dust wrapper, and a really nice one of that will probably set you back a good £20-25, if not a little bit further. An unwrappered one like that, probably £8 to £10. But this was the first of many Penguin books. They were, for a long time, his paperback publisher. So that came out in 1936, although you could probably have picked it up in 35. Then there was, as far as I could see, nothing. The war years were pretty barren for Woodhouse in paperback. And then you had a little selection of publishers that all published stuff at the end of the war. So we had Zephyr Books. Now, this is a Woodhouse, Money in the Bank. And these were published around 1945, 1946. And these were, once again, not to be sold in the UK, but were like overseas editions. I've only got the one odd Woodhouse in that sort of format. And then I've got this really nice Dell map back. So this is Leave It to Smith. Frantic Fun at Blandings Castle. And these are famous because they're called map backs because they've got a map of the action on the back. And this is quite a nice visualization of Blandings and some of the different locations that were mentioned in this book. So this is an American one. Often the American ones are abridged, but this one doesn't appear to be any abridgments, I guess because the book wasn't that long to begin with. But this is really, really nice as well. So let's leave it to Smith. That's a US one. Then along came Pan. Now Pan had two Woodhouses, both consecutive, 1949. I think this is the same year. Let's have a look. Yeah, both 1949, numbers 107 and 112. So Summer Lightning and Thank You, Jeeves. Jackets by Pollock. So quite a big jump. There's not been much in Woodhouse at all in paperback. Until eventually Penguin get in on the act big time. So this one here, Imitable Jeeves, this is Penguin book number 933, 1953. So finally, Penguin have been given the go-ahead to start releasing the Woodhouses in decent order, as it were. Got a little biography on the back there. And these early Penguin editions are very, very nice. They're lovely, really great to read even today. And that's why they're still so popular. Thankfully, bar I think one Penguin edition, I've got all the vintage Penguins right up to the very end of the 1960s. So that's sort of what this video will encompass. Here's the very next one, 934, which is Right Ho Jeeves. And quite often they would release books, Penguin would release books in a short order, so there'll be 3 or 4 released at the same time, sometimes 5. 935 here, which is The Code of the Woosters. So in actual fact, this is a series of 5 that were released at the same time, and that's something Penguin would often do. Woodhouse wasn't treated to a 10 at a time, which some authors were, such as Bernard Shaw and Agatha Christie a couple of times. But he did have 5s and 3s at a time. It's a really nice copy of that. The Code of the Woosters. 936. Leave It to Smith. And obviously not a great deal to see on these because this is typical of Penguin. It's their uniform house style of the period, isn't it? And then 937 is Big Money. 971 is Uncle Fred in Springtime. This one's got a little over sticker on, whereas it should have been 2 shillings. There's been another sticker gone on, making it 2 and 6pence. May have just been on the shelf for a little bit of time. 1954. 985 is Blanding's Castle. And when I give the number, this is the Penguin series number on the spine there. It started right back in number 1 in 1935, and the numbering goes up to about 3,200 before ISBNs came in. 986, The Luck of the Bodkins. Another one with a little over sticker on. 994 is Quick Service. Nice copy of that one. .995 is Summer Lightning. All these books that you're seeing, I think with the exception of one, are all first Penguin editions. Subsequent editions did have illustrations on. I've certainly not gone for all the different editions. I'm just happy to have sort of the first printings of each one as part of my main Penguin collection. But I have tried to specialise and get all the Woodhouses if I can. So a bit of a jump now from 995. This is up to number 1170. And in that time, Penguin have started to introduce, 957 now, small illustrations on the front. And this is the one for Pigs Have Wings. They're very, very similar. As we go along through time, you'll see they do look fairly similar. And they're all by the same artist, Geoffrey Salter. So he's the chap who does these little illustrations on the front. Then we've got 1171, the very next one, for the mating season. Great one, that. 1172 is Laughing Gas. This is quite a bold move by Penguin to start putting these illustrations on the front, but you know, their list was starting to look very, very old-fashioned by this time, so they had to do something about it. 1173 is Very Good Jeeves. And 1174 is Carry On Jeeves. And once again, that's another 5, all released by Penguin as like a consecutive run, 1170 to 1174. 1272 then, so a little bit of a jump, and then we're on to The Man Upstairs and Other Stories. This has gone forward to 1958. Covers are still by Geoffrey Salter, who did the little illustration on the front. At this point in the biography there, it says he has written 76 books. Well, we know he carried on for another sort of 20 years after these. 1273 then, Uneasy Money. And these, as I said, these really are nice editions to read even to this day. 1370 is Dr. Sally. The other format that I like to read Woodhouse in is those beautiful Everyman hardbacks. I haven't quite got them all, but I am in the process of putting a run of those together, and they are just fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful editions. And when I've got the lot, I'm going to do a video on those as well. That was 1370. 1371 is The Little Nugget. $1,600 now, so quite a big jump now for Woodhouse's sort of biography. It says a self-portrait in letters, performing flea. So that was the whole list for a while, and this this has jumped up to 1961. So they didn't publish anything new for a couple of years, Penguin, and they came back with performing flea. 1601, The Man with Two Left Feet and Other Stories. Bit of a tatty old copy, that one, but some of these I've had for years, and I never get rid of them because I always like to have spare reading copies. 1652 is Full Moon. Yeah, another Geoffrey Salter cover there. Get a little biography now on the back of what's in the story, what you can expect. 1772, so we've gone forward another sort of year or so, for The Clicking of Cuthbert and Other Stories. The illustrations have dropped the cover on the front now, and they're just black and white line. Still the same artist who's done them all, Geoffrey Salter. So the little biography's on the inside front cover now, and the back is a little bit then about the story. That one's obviously one of the golfing ones. 1815, Meet Mr. Milliner. (2046) The Indiscretions of Archie. New style of cover now, bringing in the 1960s. So it's much more in your face, as it were, 1963. Geoffrey Salter doesn't. Oh yeah, he gets the credit on the back there now. There he is, Geoffrey Salter, with another little very short synopsis of the story. But it's fascinating to see how, because they published Woodhouse so long, how the style has changed throughout Penguin's own history. 1247 is Jeeves in the Offing. A bit more like it. The covers are getting a bit more experimental now, a bit more in your face rather than the sort of timid ones of the 1950s when they were almost embarrassed to put a cover on them. 1248, Heart of a Goof. Once again, this is a trio of books all published at the same time, consecutively, given the same numbers, or consecutive numbers rather. 1249, another one, Hot Water, so that's another one in the series. Nice copy of that one, actually. (2204) is Money in the Bank. And if you've never read Woodhouse, you really are missing out on such a great author. I just love him. So easy to read, particularly with what's going on in the world at the moment. I find him just fantastic. Real escapism. 2205 then, Uckridge. Even the really early ones are just, they're so good. I don't know, they're well over 100, 120 years, the very earliest books now. They still read absolutely fine. So 2479 then, so we've had another bit of a jump. This is to tie in with the 60s Jeeves and Wooster TV show. So the front cover here shows Dennis Price as Jeeves in the BBC series The World of Wooster. And there we are. So they did a little run of these sort of TV tie-in covers, 3 and 6. But these were all books that had never been published by Penguin before in their list. There's nowhere near 90 books here, is there? So they didn't do them all by any means. And other publishers did have some. I haven't got them all. Foursquare did some, for example. And I've got a couple of other odd ones at the end here. 2532 then is Service with a Smile, from the World of Woodhouse TV show. Yeah, the World of Woodhouse. Very nice. Then we got 2546, which is Uncle Dynamite. This one isn't a TV tie-in. Cover illustration by Pat Williams on that one. Sort of in the style of Geoffrey Salter, isn't it? 1966. Nice copy of that one. These late 60s ones can be difficult to find in nice condition. Then we got 2547, very similar, for Summer Moonshine. No doubt those were released at the same time. Back to another TV tie-in now, which is for Heavy Weather. 2569. From the World of Woodhouse again. (2570) Galahad at Blandings, featuring Lord Elmsworth and other characters from the BBC The World of Woodhouse TV series, which I have to say I've not seen a single one of. Little quote from Evelyn Waugh on the back. Waugh was a huge Woodhouse fan. 1966. And that is, in actual fact, the last vintage Penguin that I've got, because I do only collect the Penguins up to around 1970-71, so I've got none past this date, although Penguin did carry on and publish some beautiful editions in the 70s into the 80s until the list moved over to Arrow and Hutchinson. I did have a couple others to show you, though, while I was here. So these were also, that was 1966, so this is 1968. And this is by Mayflower. And it's one of the later books, Do Butlers Burgle Banks? David Langdon appears to be the cover artist on that one. Quite scarce, I would imagine that. And a nice copy of it. And then back to Pan books again. So not part of their numbered series, although it's an M, which is done to denote the price. But they did this one, which is Plum Pie, which is a really nice copy of that one. And that was also published by Pan in 1968. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed looking through these vintage PG Woodhouse paperbacks. Certainly some really, really nice editions in there, and none of them too expensive to track down nowadays, as they had such great print runs. So the copies are out there, even in first edition. You just need to be a bit patient. If you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it a thumbs up. Do please consider subscribing for regular vintage paperback content, and I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.